All right, just some housekeeping rules. Let's keep ourselves muted unless you do have something to say. You can just unmute yourself and speak out or speak up. Let's keep our video or our cameras off. All right. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can raise your hands, you can write in the comment sections, you can or just unmute yourself and then you can say anything that you'd like to say. Okay, so this is a 1 hour training session. It's not going to be that long, but I hope it's going to be very, we're going to learn something out of this today, right? So again, I'm Hevelina Erasmus. I'm an industrial psychologist intern at BDO, and today's training is on empathy. Okay, so most of the times we spend a lot of times really upskilling ourselves with technical skills, right? But we somehow forget to also work on our interpersonal skills. And this is why we're doing this training today, just to add on to our interpersonal skills, because empathy is a subsection or something which is under emotional intelligence as well, right? So what we are going to talk about today, so we'll just explore what it really means to show empathy. We will look at how or a few simple actions that can help us create stronger connections, um, building a culture of honesty and openness within our organizations, and also just to make a real difference to the emotional well-being and productivity of not only ourselves but also of our colleagues, right? Okay, just to get right into it, before I start, does anyone have any question? Can everyone hear me? Am I loud and clear? All right, let's get right into it. So Daniel Goleman, the father of emotional intelligence, says that if your emotional abilities are not in hand, you don't have self-awareness. If you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationship, then no matter how smart you are not going very far. So we're just going to look at like an entire overview of how being empathetic or how being an empath or how you can identify an empath, how it can actually help us not only within our organizations, but also in our personal lives, right? And we'll also look at how too much of being an empath can also be a negative trait and can also um, damage us as individuals, right? Um, the definition of empathy, what is empathy? So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings and experiences of others. It involves putting yourself in someone else's shoes, imagining their perspective, and experiencing their emotions, right? So in its simplest form, empathy is just being able to recognize emotions in others, okay? Being able to understand other people's perspective or being able to put yourself in another person's shoes, right? Okay, and at its most developed, empathy actually enables you to use that insight, the insight of understanding others, the insight of being able to feel what others are feeling. You can actually use that insight to improve someone else's mood or to support them through challenging situations, okay? So when you feel empathy towards someone, you can relate to their joys, to their sorrows or challenges, even if you haven't personally experienced exactly what they are going through, okay? Now, empathy, let's not confuse empathy with sympathy, whereby sympathy is is a feeling of compassion or pity for someone else's situation, right? And empathy involves a deeper level of emotional connection Ooh. Joseph, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now who here believes that they are an empath? Just by a raise of hands or unmute yourself, who here believes that they are an empath? Okay, all right, I've about 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have a few empaths on here. All right, so we'll drive right into it, and then we'll be able to see what type of empathy or what type of empath are you actually, right? And how does you being empathetic, does that kind of contribute positively or negatively to your well-being and to people around you, right? So let's quickly look at the 3 types of empathy. So we have emotional empathy, we have cognitive empathy, and then we have compassionate empathy, right? So I want us to be able to identify between the 3 and also just be able to see where we fall under this spectrum, right? So emotional empathy, this is the ability to share, feel another person's feeling as if they were your own, okay? So emotional empathy, I think the official name is affective empathy, right? Now, it involves sharing the emotional experience of another person, okay? Sorry, do we have someone's hand? I think I'm seeing someone's hand up. Human resource, would you like to say something? Or was this just from my question of who is an empath? Okay, I guess it was from that. Okay, okay, okay. Right. So emotional empathy, like I was saying, this involves sharing the emotional experience of another person, right? This is like an automatic response that allows you to feel what others are feeling, okay? So you witness someone's joy, someone's sadness or fear, then you feel the same. You somehow kind of resonate with these emotions of what other people are feeling, okay? Um, so, for instance, if you see a loved one crying, you may find yourself tearing up as well, or feeling their pain and sadness. If you see your colleague in some sort of distress, you might start feeling the same emotions as well. Okay, sorry for that. Right. Now, for some of us, or for most of us, this type of empathy can be very overwhelming, okay? So people with strong empathetic tendency can become immersed in other people's problems. Like this is, if you're like an emotional empath, you somehow get involved with everyone else's problems, and it drains you so much because for the fact that at times, if you are unable to solve your colleagues, your friends, your people around you, if you are unable to solve their problems, it kind of drains you, right? And which is way, way different from cognitive empathy. So cognitive empathy, this is just like the capacity to understand another person's feelings. Sorry about that. So cognitive empathy, this is the capacity to understand another person's feelings and what they must be thinking. So this is technically just putting yourself in the other person's shoes, understanding their perspective, understanding that what they are going through, how it makes them feel. You understand all of this, right? But you don't necessarily feel certain or immerse yourself into this, right? You don't necessarily share the same emotion as the person, okay? And then compassionate empathy, this is the ability to not only understand another person's feelings, but also to feel compelled to help. This is like the putting together emotional empathy, cognitive empathy, but now also having that feeling or being compelled to help the person, okay? Um, So compassionate empathy, this one, it goes beyond understanding and sharing someone's emotion. It involves a desire to somehow take action or to help this person, right? Or these people, right? And compassionate empathy combines both cognitive and emotional elements, like I've just mentioned. And by understanding another person's perspectives, feeling feeling their emotions, and then being motivated to provide support. Now, when you're experiencing compassionate empathy, right, you when you experience compassionate empathy, you don't only grasp someone's feelings, you also take steps to offer to aid, or to offer solutions, or to offer some type of help for these people, perhaps refer them to someone, or perhaps advise them to do A, B, C, and D, or so on, right? And this type of empathy often manifests as acts of kindness, right? Can be just offering your listening ear, providing practical help, or simply just being there for someone in need, okay? So now, to everyone who has mentioned earlier that they are empaths, where do you think you fall under these three types of empathy? If I can just go first, so I would say throughout the years, I was more of an emotional empathic type, right? If you come to me with something, with a problem, I get obsessed over this problem until it's solved, right? And it gets to be very draining. People start taking advantage of you. You try to become a people pleaser, but throughout the years, I've been working on becoming more of a cognitive empathy type, right? Just by listening, understanding what the person is feeling, what the person is going through, but not necessarily sharing those emotions, or being in a situation. If I cannot help this person, I become obsessed with really just trying to solve these people's problems. Okay, so where do you guys fall? Let me just quickly check my comment section. All right, so we have compassionate, all right, we have cognitive empathy, okay, we have cognitive, compassionate, depends on the situation, depending on the situation, okay. Carol says, depending on the situation, I can be either of the three. I have a lot of empathy, but react differently with different people, which is true. You can have all three. You can be more towards one than the other. But the most important thing is that you don't possess a huge amount of one, especially emotional empathy can be very draining. Esther says she's emotional, and I believe, Esther, this can be draining for you at times. Is it? Because I know yes, Esther says yes. I mean, I know emotional empathy can be very draining at times, because you want to be there for everyone. You want to to do right for everyone. You want people to see you in a certain light, you know, but I mean, we cannot always solve people's problems, right? Now, we cannot do that, okay? Reho says they are more of cognitive empathy, which is also one of the good types of empathies, right? So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for sharing that with me. So we'll be moving on now to why empathy is important, okay? So we'll start off at looking at it from a business perspective. Why is empathy important within our organizations? Okay. Okay. So empathy increases retention. Okay. What does that mean? So when employees feel understood, they feel valued and they are supported, they are more likely to stay with a company for a long time. Okay. Empathy fosters this sense of belonging and creates an emotional connection between employees and the organization, which obviously in turn increase employee loyalty and retention. Okay, and then empathy drives innovation. Okay, in what sense? So empathy actually encourages a deeper understanding of customer needs and challenges and desire, right? So if you're like an empathetic person and a client comes up to you with all these pain points and what happened to them and how the company is not assisting them in a certain way, if you are an empath or have a certain level of empathy, you'll be able to understand them, you'll be able to put yourself in their shoes, and you'll be able to develop innovative solutions that directly address those pain points and create like products and services that truly meets the client's expectations, okay? And then we have empathy supports employee well-being, which is like the biggest part of, I mean, we have this thing of, I don't need to be empathetic and I don't need to be with empaths because I'm just here to make money. I just came to work to make money. But if you really think about it, we do spend a lot of our times and we are going to spend a lot of our working, our times working with our colleagues. We'll spend these times with our managers, with our bosses. So we might as well be empathetic and allow it to contribute on our well-being and the well-beings of others that we work with, okay? So when employers and colleagues shows empathy, it creates a supportive and caring environment. It actually gives like a company culture which is very supportive and caring, okay? Employees feel heard and understood and valued, and all of this can contribute to the overall well-being, not only of the organization, but of everyone working within that organization. Okay, and I would say this also can reduce stress levels, reduce burnout. I think, no, it's the same as yours. It looks like it's frozen. Sorry for that. Can you guys see my slides? Someone just told me my slides are frozen. Oh, they are not moving.
Yeah, I can see only up to support employee well-being.
Yeah, so I'm still at support employee well-being. I'm still there. So can you all see up to support employee well-being? Okay. So my next slide is instills a sense of trust. So okay, it's stuck on the first slide. Adeline, can you see now that I'm at instills a sense of trust? Okay, thank you so much. All right, so again, why is empathy important? Okay, no problem. So why is empathy important? One of the key points is also that it instills a sense of trust, right? So empathy plays a crucial role in building trust among our team members and between employees and management. Have you ever been in an organization? I've once been in an organization where we just don't have that sense of trust, like especially with management, like the employees don't actually trust management. You know, anything can happen. So, but when management, when leaders, when employees are more empathetic, it actually instills that sense of trust, and everyone can come up to you and raise their concerns, and they'll be understood, and all of that. Okay. The next one is builds relationship, which is very important. Building good relationships, not only with our employee, not only with our colleagues, but also with our clients. Okay. So empathy fosters strong interpersonal connection between employees. Empathy also encourages active listening, I'd say open communication and understanding of each other's perspectives. Okay. Empathy also promotes honesty, right? When empathy is present in the workplace, individuals feel more comfortable expressing their thoughts and opinions and concerns without a fear of judgment, okay? And I would say empathy also reduces stress because you can provide emotional support and understanding within your organization, okay? Empathy boosts revenues. In what way? I would say um, mostly due to the positive impact it has on customer satisfaction and loyalty. So when employees understand and empathize with customer needs, they can provide like better services and build stronger customer relationships. And obviously, satisfied customers are more likely to become repeat customers, and they are more likely to come back to your organization, and they are more likely to refer you to other people as well. Okay. And improves job performance. So empathy enhances employee, it will obviously enhance your motivation and engagement, leading to an improved job performance. Okay. So because when employees feel valued and understood, they are more likely to go above and beyond their work, organizational citizenship, that is. Okay. And it also just closes the gap, the gap between this whole big gap we have between management and the rest of the employees, right? Empathy closes that gap. Okay. And looking at empathy at a more personal level, I would say empathy increases intimacy, right? So if individual understands each other, they connect well, your partner is more likely to speak out, to come to you with everything because they know that you'll be able to understand and comprehend what they are saying. Okay. It drives growth. So empathy plays a crucial role in personal growth and development. So when we empathize with others, we gain like this new perspective and insights that can broaden our understanding of the world. Okay. And supports others' well-being. So empathy is a cornerstone of supporting the well-being of others. Like this, because if we are genuinely understanding and empathizing with someone's challenges, we can provide the necessary emotional support, encouragement, and validation, which contributes like to the overall well-being of the next person. This can be your friends, this can be your family members, this can be your partner, and so on. Okay. Again, just the same like on the business side, it instills a sense of trust. Your friends are more likely to trust you, to come to you and talk to you. Your family members, your everyone around you, they are more likely to come to you and confide into you and vent to you because they have that sense of trust in you. Okay. And also builds deeper connection. So you are more likely to establish this deep connection and establish this emotional bridge between, actually strengthen this emotional bridge between you and the next person, okay, and have more meaningful relationships based on mutual understanding and support as well, okay. And it also promotes honesty, um, the same as I've mentioned on the business side. Empathy encourages honesty and authenticity in the relationship because individuals feel understood and accepted, and they are more likely to share their thoughts. It reduces stress, it boosts communication because when you empathize, when we empathize with others, we pay close attention to their needs, perspectives, and emotion, leading to a more effective and empathetic communication, right? Improves partner performance. Empathy in relationships contributes to improve performance and cooperations, like by understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses and motivations. You can actually provide support and guidance with and also facilitate personal and professional growth. But your partner can be anyone, can be your friend, can be a business partner, can be anyone, right? And lastly, it closes the age gap and the gender gap. You know, this, I mean, if we are more empathetic, we we break down these stereotypes, these prejudices, these biases, and we promote an understanding and acceptance across diverse demographics, right? It can be how you communicate to someone who's way older than you, how you communicate to someone who's way younger than you, or how you communicate with or listen to or communicate with someone of a different gender. Okay. So is there any questions so far? Any contributions on why empathy is important and everything else that we have just spoken about? Or are we all going to move on? Okay, I'm seeing hands up, thumbs up, thumbs up. So let's just quickly move on. So let's quickly look at the empathy spectrum, right? We've mentioned that we are empaths, right? But on the empathy spectrum, you are either really high on it or very low on it, or you're just not an empathetic person at all, right? You just don't have that empathy trait in you at all. So let's quickly look at the spectrum, right? So I'm just going to open up everything all at once. So let's start off with very high, people that are very high on the empathy spectrum. If you take like a empathy quiz, you can find those online. There are a lot of them, thousands of them. If you take an empathy quiz and you probably score like an 80 to 100, that means you are very high on the empathy spectrum, right? So this type of people, you feel other people's emotional states even before they speak, right? Your friends, your family, your colleagues, they gravitate towards you whenever they have a problem. They know that you are always there to lend a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on, okay? But the only problem here is that they don't always, the people that are coming to you, they don't always reciprocate, right? This same energy, this same assistance, this same help, right? And may sometimes openly use you to sort out their emotions, only to leave you drained and overwhelmed. So we have to be very careful that we don't score very high on the empathy spectrum, because people are more likely to take advantage of us, right? And to make things worse, you are likely to attract, according to studies, you are likely to attract unhealthy relationships where you are used and even abused. And as an empath who scores very high on the empathy spectrum, you won't necessarily be able to identify the signs like this person is actually taking advantage of me. This person is actually, I'm actually in an unhealthy relationship, right? You won't necessarily be able to identify that unless you really know yourself, you are self-aware, and you know that you're an empath and you're working on just moving to a much average level of it, okay? And people like narcissists, right? They prey on highly empathetic people to get their admiration and support and the praise that they crave. So for instance, when I was like really high on the empathy spectrum, I don't look at anything objectively. I look at everything emotionally, right? So when a colleague comes to me and they come to me with their problem, okay, this is what happened, this is how I feel, you know, I don't necessarily look at what exactly contributed to this, right? What was your role in this as well? You know, what or how did you contribute to this? Right? Why is it just the other person's fault? I don't look at that. I'm just looking at, okay, this person is feeling very sad, they are very emotional. It must be something bad. I need to do something to help them, right? Which is not always a good thing, okay? And people who are very who are high empaths, they often feel guilty and worry about unintentionally hurting someone's feelings, okay? You're constantly trying to read between the lines and often um, ruminate about other people holding grudges against you. You often worry that other people may have a negative opinion of you, and you're constantly trying to take steps to prevent that. Okay, this just leads to a lot of anxiety and a lot of emotional exhaustion, and all of that. Okay, so if you are really very high on empathy, this is the time that you need to start taking steps to protect your mental health and your well-being. Okay, then we have someone who scores like, they are not extremely high, but they're high. You probably score like a 60 and 80 on a basic empathy quiz, right? So it is likely that you are a warm, caring, and generous person. Adults and children enjoy spending time with you. You probably have rescued pets living in your home. You are a good listener who genuinely is interested in other people. You love being around others and don't like to stay alone. You tend to avoid confrontations and try to find alternative solutions that will leave all parties satisfied, right? You're that person that wants to be in the middle ground and want everyone to come out a winner. You know, you don't want a loser and a winner. You want both people to win or both parties to win, okay? Although you don't particularly enjoy it, you are not overly sensitive to criticisms. You make decisions based on your feelings and emotion rather than facts. Even more so, you are always concerned about how your decisions affect other people. So any decision that you make, you always think back and how will this affect the next person? How will this affect person A, B, C? How will this affect my colleague? No, and then we have average, right? If you score average on empathy, this score will be about like a 35 to 39, right? This is the good area to be in. Average is the good area to be in. So most people actually belong here, right? You can feel for others without being overly sensitive. Okay, this has a lot to do with cognitive empathy. Okay, and a little bit of compassionate empathy as well. You can feel for others without being overly sensitive. You understand and support others without neglecting your own needs. Occasionally, you may become very emotional about someone's misfortune, but you do recover very quickly, right? And this is where we should all strive to be, right? You believe that to be able to help others, you need to maintain your balance and well-being first. Okay, you judge people based on their action rather than feelings about them, and sometimes you choose to keep your opinions to yourself to avoid confrontation or helping or hurting someone's needs. Okay, so this is where we all need to be average, somewhere in the middle, because too much of something is not too good, and too little of something is also not so good at all. So the next one is low. If you are low, that's about a 15 to 34 score on a normal empathy quiz or test. If you are low, so generally you don't understand people, especially when it comes to emotional outbursts and venting. You don't understand why some people cry and complain about issues that others cannot obviously help them with. You feel like people are just so dramatic. Being rational, you are very rational and a very practical person, and you prefer to keep to yourself, working on your own projects, because you do not necessarily have time to interact with other people and try to see what it is that they are going through. You are not all about that, right? People who score low on this, they don't necessarily have a lot of friends, or a lot of your friends are not, or the type of friends that you have are not particularly warm or sensitive, and you are more likely to be attracted to people who are more logical, and you perceive them to be very smart, logical, and successful in those areas, and not very emotional people. Okay. And then if you score like very, very, this is like the end of the spectrum, like the opposite of empathy. So generally, you have difficulty dealing with other people. You don't work well within a team environment. It is highly likely that you are very productive and successful on your own when you work on your own, because you then don't tend to become distracted or involved in other people's dramas, right? Now, you probably tend to think in terms of stereotypes. You may seem too confrontational and argumentative to other people, which is why a lot of people actually try to avoid you, right? And I believe you'll also notice that in your working environments, we do have people that score very low on empathy. They just People want to be on their own. They are very confrontational. They are very argumentative, and everyone else is avoiding them. And imagine a leader or a manager being super, super low on that. How that will work out. All right, so if you need to develop your self-awareness and improve your communication skills, that is if you are very low on the spectrum. So that's when you start now to develop your self-awareness, develop on your communication skills. That's if you want to now build better relationships with others. All right, now back to you guys. Where do you feel you fall on this spectrum? Would you say you are very high, average, low, or very low? You can type in the comment section. You can just unmute yourself. Let me quickly go to the chats. Oh, we have a lot of highs. High. Oh my goodness. High to average, which is fine. Oh my goodness. We have a lot of highs, which is okay, it's a good thing, but not so of a good thing, because remember, if you really high on something, it can also be very negative, especially in this instance. So the aim is to be somewhere average. Okay, someone saying above average, depending on the person and situation. All right, all right. Yes, yeah. Sometimes it also just depends on, for instance, you might be very high at home in your personal life and very low or somewhere average at in your working environment or in your business environment. Okay. Rehel says depends on how I feel. Okay, which is true. It also sometimes depends on how you feel, or sometimes you're just not in the mood, and sometimes you just really open to understanding other people and also just feeling what they are feeling. Okay, so thank you guys. So our aim again is to be somewhere average, not extremely high. High is also fine. Average is fine, but not extremely high, which is very high, and not very low. Okay, let's just be somewhere. Let's work towards being somewhere in the middle. And to I'll speak on like practical things that we can actually do to make sure that we are somewhere on that spectrum. Okay, somewhere average. Right. Um, moving on. Now we'll look at the practical examples of becoming an empath. So let's say you are very low on the empathy spectrum, like it's just not in you. You just don't have time for other people around you. You prefer being by your own, working on your own. Everything else is just way too dramatic for you and very sensitive for you, and you don't have time for that. So how do you then become an empath? Okay, we're just quickly going to run through it. So I'm just going to literally, sorry, sorry. All right. So giving your full attention to someone, the first thing, very, sorry, just before we go to the practical examples of being an empath, let's quickly look at the signs or that shows that you're an empath. Okay. Um, I'm just going to open up everything. So my question again is, are you an empath? Okay. Do you have good intuition? Okay. Um, have you ever felt like you have a strong gut reaction to things like that feel a bit off? If something feels off, you have that gut reaction, right? Or perhaps you pick up on honesty easily, or you just know that something is not good, right? You have like this really good intuition. Or you sometimes also take comfort in nature. Empathetic people have a tendency of taking comfort in nature, so you benefit from spending time in natural settings. um, you may feel even more drawn to nature and remote areas, since natural environment provides a calming space to rest just from these overwhelming sensations and sounds and emotions of people. You struggle in crowds because remember, you pick up on everyone else's emotions. You absorb positive and negative energy at the same time, so you don't really do well in crowds. You can and you can how do I put this, you have a hard time not caring, right? An empath doesn't just feel for someone, they really feel with someone. You don't feel for someone, you feel with someone. So taking in others emotions is so, you take in other people's emotions so deeply that and you try to help these people, and you always tend to be disappointed if it doesn't work, right? um Random people strike up conversations with you. People are more how should I put it, people are more comfortable coming up to you and striking like a conversation with you, right? It can get deeply personal and real quick. Have you ever noticed like sometimes when people start, a total stranger, they start speaking to you, all of a sudden everything is getting way personal. They are telling you all their life stories and what they are going through, and that is because you are showing them the trait of empathy. Okay. You have high sensitivity to sound, smells, and sensation. You need time to recharge because of all this overwhelming um, emotions and energy and people and trying to solve everything. You don't like conflict, you avoid conflict at all costs, and you often feel like you don't belong at times. You tend to isolate, you have a hard time to set boundaries, and you see the world in unique ways. So these are just like some of the symptoms or some of the things or traits or characteristics that empaths actually have. So if you're looking at this, you can actually identify that, okay, I am an empath, right? And looking at our spectrum, you can somehow identify if you are on the high end or on the low end. Okay, so just people who score really low on the empathy, just some practical examples to becoming an empath, right? Give your full attention to someone. When someone is speaking to you, try to give your full attention. Okay. um, um, put away, if someone is speaking to you, put away distractions like looking on your phone or other devices. For example, when a friend is or a colleague is sharing their struggles with you, make eye contact with them. Show that you are understanding them, actively engage in the conversation without interrupting them. Okay, being committed to seeing their perspective even when you disagree. So if you want to be an empath, try to understand another person's perspective. Don't always try to interrupt when they are talking. Sometimes you really do disagree with what they are saying, but um, do you have? Okay, I have a few. Do you have good online quiz regarding identifying levels of being an empath? All right, I have a few quizzes that I'll share with you guys towards the end of the presentation. I just need to put them together and then share the link in the chat section. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so moving on. Allow people to speak. Listen. Be interested in what they are saying. Affirmations just provide emotional support to them. Like for instance, if your colleague is telling you that they're feeling insecure, for instance, about a project that they are working on, you can offer some affirmations by saying you're doing a great job. Your efforts are making a difference. Keep up the good work. Some of these affirmations actually do make a difference in people. Just to raise a bit of confidence in them, right? The same as validation of another's feelings. Okay, truly feeling with another person. This goes back to emotional empathy, being honest but kind. Okay, be honest. Like sometimes you have to be honest with certain things. Just do it in a kind manner. Okay. Again, let's remember that empathy is different from sympathy. Like empathy should not be confused with sympathy, because sympathy involves feeling pity or compassion for someone's hardships, while empathy goes beyond that. Empathy goes beyond that because you have to now understand. You share the emotions of others, and it requires now to you putting yourself in the next person's position and genuinely connecting with this person's experiences. Okay. um, so those are just some of the practical examples that you can practice on, or some of the few things that you can do when you want to be more of an empath, or if you want to score a little bit somewhere a bit higher on the spectrum of being an empath. Okay. All right. So do we have any questions so far? We just have 10 minutes left, and I'm just quickly going to speak on um, 2 more slides, and then I'll be done. Do we have any questions so far? Is everything clear and understandable? Should I just move on? Are you guys still there? Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. So thumbs up, great. All right, let's quickly move on before we run out of time. All right. So again, again, is there a quiz to take for the empathy spectrum? Yes, there are quizzes. There are actually a lot of quizzes. If you just Google quizzes on empathy, you get a lot of different ones that you can do. Like there are a lot of them. We also do have like more of scientific surveys, bigger studies that have been done in scientific ones, but those ones are a bit more expensive because you have to pay for them. But overall, there are like a lot of quizzes online that you can just Google, and you can kind of see where you stand when on the empathy spectrum. Okay. But I'll share some links later. I just need to go back, put some together, and then I'll share it with you guys. Okay. All right. All right. All right. So just some common pitfalls of being an empath. Like I said, being too much of something can also be a bad thing, right? So sometimes if you are too much on the empathy side, you can feel and seem fake, right? What does this mean? Like, empaths often experience the challenge of feeling like they have to present a certain persona or to fit in to avoid burdening others with their intense emotions. This pressure can lead to a sense of in what is it inauthenticity as they suppress their true feelings and emotions. Sometimes you pretend um to like something but you don't necessarily like it. Sometimes you may seem very fake because of just trying to please other people or make sure that you don't hurt other people's feelings, right? And also feeling obligated to help everyone. Empaths have a strong um, inclination to assist and support others, and sometimes it can also be at the expense of their own well-being. This I've mentioned a lot. And you only see the good side of people. Like being an empath, you most of the times only see the good side of people, and you often ignore or downplay the negative aspects in that, right? um, which again, what does this lead to? It can make you vulnerable to toxic relationship, people exploiting you, and you, because you are so high on empathy, you may overlook red flags or disregard these instincts that you have, right? Okay. Awareness of things awareness of things you shouldn't. So empaths have an innate, you can become aware of things you should know. So an empath has an innate sensitivity to the emotions of and energy of others, right? So sometimes this makes you aware of things that they would rather not know. So you identify things in people that people themselves don't even know, right? So you pick up on other people's secrets, conflicts, or hidden intention, which can be overwhelming at times and creates a sense of responsibility to intervene, where sometimes you just don't have to, but most of the times you really do pick up on these things. Okay. You struggle with identity and loss of self, right? So due to their empathetic or due to this empathetic nature, empaths often absorb the emotions and identities of others because remember, if you're like really high on empathy, you want to be a people pleaser. You want to make sure it's all nicey and goody and everyone is all, you know, feeling a specific way, which is not how life works for at the moment, right? So, and then also emotional burnout. So, empaths are susceptible to emotional exhaustion. This is because they absorb and carry the burdens of others because you are constantly being attuned to intense emotions, and this is draining your energy reserves, and which often leads to burnout because you're trying to solve your family problem. Your cousin here is asking for something, you want to help. Your mother-in-law, your auntie is asking for something, your colleagues, and you want to help everyone. You feel sorry for everyone. When you drive by, there's these kids in the streets, they want something, you give them, you know, you're that person. It can be very emotionally draining, okay? And in the workplace, people tend to take advantage of you. I mean, if someone, can you please help me with this? Can you please help me with that? You feel the need to actually help them, right? Whereby people tend to exploit you. Okay, just to run through the rest. You have the inability to turn off empathy, constant overstimulation, struggling with anxiety and depression, because in the end, you have absorbed all of these energies. Most of them can even be so negative that it can lead you to anxiety. It can lead to anxiety and depression. For instance, I have a problem like um, I cannot be a clinical psychologist. That's why I decided to rather go for industrial, right? Because I have a problem of separating people's problems, emotions from myself. So when we have a session and you kind of dump all of this on me, I take this home. Like I constantly think about this until I want it solved, you know? So that's like one of the common pitfalls of being an empath, right? You have difficulty in saying no, you constantly forgetting about yourself, and so on. And we only have 3 minutes left, so I'm just quickly going to run on how to manage being an empath, right? So how do you then manage being an empath? So the first step, identify that you're an empath. The first step is self-awareness. Self-awareness. Identify, oh, I'm an empath. I'm actually an empath. What do I do then to actually control all of these things around me so I don't fall being exploited and so on. So the second step is to learn to set boundaries. This was also very difficult for me, but I've learned to set boundaries. It's okay to say no if it's it you cannot solve everything. You have to get this perspective in your mind that you cannot, so problems will always be there. They are always going to be there. Family problems will always be there, and you need to learn how to set boundaries and tell yourself that you are unable to solve all these problems in the world, right? Unless you really can, then you can actually do that. Like I said, practice saying no. Sometimes you need to say no. um, Make an effort to practice self-awareness. Again, just by identifying who you are, your strengths and weaknesses, and then just work on these weaknesses and try to identify certain ways that um, uh, can actually pull you from this being a highly emotional, empathetic, empathy type person. Okay. Is it okay if I just take, let's say, 5 minutes of your time because we only have 1 minute left? Is it fine if I take 5 more minutes? All right, great, awesome, awesome. Thank you, guys. Great stuff. Right. So it again, practice say this one is very important for me. Practice saying no. I'll give you guys an example. Um, I was working on a project with my colleague. My colleague was working on another different project, right? So the I did my work. The following day, I submitted my work, but then my colleague didn't manage to complete all of her work. So, and it was due like 9 o'clock in the morning. So she's asking help from me. I have my own work, right? I stayed up the whole night doing my own work, but this person wants me to help them with their work, whereby they just did not put in effort to take more time and complete this, right? So obviously I said no. This, and it was so hard for me because this person ended up being very having certain feelings or anger towards me. But sometimes it's okay to say no, or else this is how people start again exploiting you, right? Build your support system. Have someone that you can go to, explain a situation to them, someone who's very objective, right? Go to this person, explain the situation to them, and then allow them to look at it in an objective manner, and they can then advise you on what to do. Okay? Um, Educate yourself and grow into your emotional intelligence. Okay, there's a question. How do I say no? Practice saying no to my supervisor without being deemed, seen as refusing to do the work. So here's the thing: you don't necessarily, if your supervisor comes up to you giving you more work and you have a lot of other work, or if they're giving you like things out of your scope, right? Here's the thing: you don't necessarily just say, no, I can't do this, but you explain to them that I have A, B, C, and D. I have this amount of work that I need to do, right? I have this amount of work that I need to do, and I really do not have the capacity to take up more work, in a very kind manner, in a very good way for them to understand that you don't have that capacity to do the work. You really want to do it, but you really do not have that capacity, right? And it also goes back to the type of people that we're working with, right? I mean, we give this training, sometimes we give these trainings to certain people, but the people that really need the trainings are not actually attending them, right? So if your supervisor was an empathetic person, they would understand your perspective and realize that, okay, I'm actually being unreasonable, right? But just try to explain it to them, let them see what you are currently working on. Let them know that you don't have the capacity, and let them know that it will be draining for you, and have an overall impact on the rest of your work if you take up more work, okay? But this is an open session. Does anyone want to say something regards to this? Okay, it's okay, Carol. Thank you so much for joining. Let me just quickly rush through everything else because we literally ran out of time. Um, so educate yourself and grow in your emotional intelligence. Again, just educate yourself on EQ, on emotional intelligence, right? Understanding other people, understanding yourself. Emotional intelligence has to do with just the understanding of people's emotions and in your own emotions, right? Plan alone time, plan to energize yourself, recharge yourself, just you don't always necessarily need to be around people. Spend time in nature. Like I said, empathetic people do well with nature, so just spend time in nature. Um, um, Try to get a good sense of everything. Just try to forget about everything around you and just concentrate on yourself. Meditate, do all sorts of nice things, relax, listen to nice music and all of that. Create real or imagined distance. Um, this is whereby you just create distance from a lot of other people in other situations and all of that. And lastly, remember that it can be weaponized against you and manipulated by others. And seek professional help if needed. If it's too much on you, do seek professional help. Do seek a psychologist, a psychological counselor, or anyone or someone close to you, someone who's also very objective that can actually help you with all of this. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining. These are just like some of the book lists that I've put together that you guys can just go read on. The first one being I'm Human, a book of empathy. It this sorry, this is appropriate for any age, right? It looks at what it means to be a connected human on this planet. And then we have the drama of the gifted child, and this one is just, it just shows you sometimes the reason why you're not so empathetic or you have no empathy at all, it's because of something that is derived from your childhood or from childhood trauma. And also the last book, which is Leading with Empathy by Gotham. This book just speaks about how you can lead or you can manage people while being an empath. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My apologies for taking more minutes from your time. I hope it was very informative, and you guys did understand all the aspects that we just spoke about.